glad you're still with us here on Global Morning. Great Friday, no doubt about that, but it's time to put our discussions on the road full-fledged. The first being the fact that today is International Women's Day, and it's special because it gives us the opportunity to have all of the very salient and vital conversations around the development and the discussion itself beyond the promises that we see every day from the government top to bottom, and then of course from civil society organizations as well. It's also an opportunity to gauge how much of progress, if any, that we've recorded so far, and how much more work we have in front of us to do to be able to achieve measurable success in this regard. I'm joined by someone who has a very sizable background in this area, but you'll meet him right after this short break. My guest, everyone, is Barrister Adaze Andrew Emata, former Commissioner Communication in Edo State and later Commissioner for Youth and Gender Affairs in the same state. So apparently had played a very pivotal role in that state under the leadership of Governor Godwin Obaseki. Like I mentioned, he's also a lawyer in the middle of that. So it gives him the requisite background to have this conversation around women, gender-based issues, and what exactly it is that is responsible for us not seeing this, as it were, significant leap in the way we address issues of women. Again, that's if you look at the conversation against the backdrop of the fact that this year, the theme is focused around inspiring inclusion, investing in women, and accelerating progress. So it's good to see you again, Honorable Emata, on the program.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning, Oye. Happy International Women's Day to all our mothers, sisters, and wives.
That's great to see. But I want us to start from here because, I mean, that you're a lawyer gives you a lot of edge in this regard. We've seen so much of, I mean, seminars and conferences being held with regards to women and issues around women and so on and so forth. It appears we are just spinning around the circle.
Yeah, thank you. While I served as a commissioner for, youth and gender, which many persons felt that this is a position meant for women, and I think that's where the problem is. There was this talk of he for she. It's actually a movement supported by UN Women.
Right.
And there's no way you can achieve this issue of zero gender-based violence if men are not part of it. Because it should not be seen as a gender, equality thing. Because it's difficult to talk of gender parity in a society where women cannot really take up some specific roles. You talk of politics, how active can they be in politics? And a woman aspires to an office, the greatest people that will pull that woman down are women themselves, because they have a larger spectrum of the population and they have failed to use that particular. And I think it's not that we don't have them in their numbers who are competent, but the truth is their exclusion, so to speak, their self-exclusion, so to speak. Why are women so quick to wanting to be first ladies? Why can't they also run for the office of governor? Why can't they also run for the office of president? Just recently there was a program I watched on TV. I think that was the Awolowo, Leadership Award program. The woman that came from Tanzania is the president of that country. We have many examples. A country like Malawi, Grace Banda was president of that country.
That's right.
So why can't women take up leadership role? Because some of all these issues border on, laws, policy, and decision making at the very highest level of government. And I think until that is achieved, we cannot really say that some of these issues at the level of legislation, at the level of decision making, can be properly tackled. Because globally, the population of women increases by the day. If you take the male to female ratio, you discover that they are more in numbers. How come in spite of that we still talk of issues of genital mutilation, issues around gender-based violence, issues around exclusion, because the theme for this year talks about inclusion. So the inclusivity of women in decision making, it rests on their hands. It is not a man thing. It's not a men thing. It is for them to now say this is what we want, and for them to be more involved in politics. In terms of there's this stereotype attached to women participation. They attain certain positions. Some of them think it's bottom power and what have you. But it's more than that. It is when more and more of them get involved that they can deal with some of all these issues. You talk of girl-child education. It's only when they are in decision-making, positions that they can drive it. They can drive that narrative. They can even push for maybe free education at the level of secondary education, because when you look at the North-South divide, you discover that most female children in the North, they don't have access to education. Why? You talk of child marriage, they send them out to marry at very early ages. How can they pursue their education? So, the issues are so numerous that it is only when women are actively involved in politics that they can deal with these problems.
We have 36 states in this country, of course, including the FCT. Since 1999, we have seen First Lady, 3 dozens of them holding different programs, coming up with different initiatives, women for this, women for that, pet programs, pet foundation, pets, everything. This is 20-something years, 25 years into this dispensation, this democratic experience. Are we saying we are not seeing a change? Is it like what these women, all of these first ladies across the country have been doing since 1999 are just like, at best, scratching the surface?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I want to start by saying, during the military, we had more impact. You remember the Better Life for Women Development and, the way and manner they went about it. People could feel the impact of what you say First Lady is, though it has no constitutional definition of rule, as it were. When the governor is elected, it is the governor we have elected. We didn't elect his wife. But unfortunately, you now have an office of First Lady, and at the end of the day, what do they really do? Nothing.
But they have budgetary allocations.
They have budgetary. What do they really do? They talk about women. What impact have they brought to that office, the office of First Lady? You see, most of them, they struggle with the commissioner, as I experienced. They struggle with the commissioner. They want to play the role of the commissioner in charge of women, gender, or whatever they call it across the spectrum. There's a budget. They hardly allow the commissioner to have access to the budget.
So
for me, I think our lawmakers should create the office of First Lady. In the Constitution, there should be a constitutional amendment so that they have specific roles, not this undue interference they make. The office of First Lady is meant to be an office that, and I must commend the various Nigerian First Ladies who felt the impact at that level. But at the state level, I'm sorry to say, you see a woman claims, I'm First Lady of a particular state, you are doing a full-time job and you're still running the office of First Lady. They have to pick and choose. Because I know as it is the practice in Nigeria, once a president's wife occupies that office, it becomes a full-time job. It is a practice globally. In America, you hardly hear this office of First Lady at the level of the states. Have you ever seen any, maybe the wife of the governor of New York will say, the office of, no. It's only in Nigeria you have it, globally. And of course, it is an office that, in terms of, they've observed it more in breach than in observance. They've followed the protocols of governance more in breach than in observance. What do they really do? They collect so much money. Their husbands protect them. So I think to solve this problem, the office must be properly defined under the Constitution.
And you are even recommending constitutional amendments?
I think so, because if they want to take up a role, it should be properly defined.
Right.
It should be properly defined.
I was just going to ask something around, basically the issue of the fact that we've not had a female governor since 1999 in particular. Does it bother you?
Yes, it should bother everybody because when the Constitution talks about every Nigerian, it is not gender specific, right? It gives every citizen of this country equal rights of aspiring to every public office created under the Constitution. And as such, there's need for, and I will say this again, women to be involved in politics, because if they don't have themselves in higher numbers in terms of participation, it becomes a problem. It is not something that you can describe as, it's not a walk in the park.
Right.
And though in Anambra at some point we had an acting female governor,
Well,
that is not a substantial governor. It was circumstantial when the governor Peter Obi at the time was removed, and so we look forward to a day, and even sometime I think it was in Ekiti State, you know, Obada or some other person, you know, became acting governor. You know, so a situation where women are given the position of deputy governor as a way of compensating for them. And of course, as you know it, the experience from Edo has shown that the office of deputy governor is like that of a spare tire. When you have a vehicle, you have 4 tires. Right. It is only when one of the tires is
back to your trunk.
You know, you go back to your trunk, you pick your spare tire. Once you fix that, you throw that spare tire back into the trunk. And that is what has played out in a place like Edo, where a deputy governor was evicted like a tenant that has refused to pay rent from government house. Whereas the drafters of our constitution thought that position to be one that whenever the governor is not around, he steps in fully. He supports the governor. And I'm sorry to say, most deputy governors are like first ladies. They now operate at the mercy of the governor.
Incidentally, you have just made the job easier for us. So let's just quickly do a smooth, seamless transition into our second discussion this morning. You already mentioned the deputy governor of Edo State and the person of Philip Shaibu. Who has, for many people, become an embattled deputy governor. Some people say what is playing out now, to a large extent, is also same as what we had seen in recent times in Ondo State, even though that appears to be, for the most part, have been overtaken by events. Let's talk about Edo State. I mean, you are not just from Edo State. You had been a part of this government that is currently running. In 2020, for example, we saw how Philip Shaibu, the deputy governor, and his, some people say, SY principal, the governor, Godwin Obaseki, were so much in love and dancing message together across the states in the build-up to the 2020 gubernatorial election. At what point did things fall apart?
Yeah, thank you. I want to start by first correcting the impression people have when they say SY. It's still his principal, right? It's just that the governor has decided to discard that office. He has excavated the office of deputy governor, quote and unquote, from government, and that is not right. And that's why some of us have very big issues when they bring up this issue of state police. If governors now control police, many of us will not be able to stay in our states. And that's why some of us have decided to take up residence in Abuja, because you discover this one governor, once you oppose him, he marks you for demolition. He has stopped demolishing buildings. It is individuals in that demolition. It's a situation where a deputy governor is evicted from government house. The governor did not just stop there, prevented him from attending ESCOM. For the past 5 months, the Edo State Executive Council has not met. They have never met once this year. The governor says he's running internet government. They meet virtually. Whenever the deputy governor wants to make certain interventions, they remove him from the Zoom meeting. That is not democracy. We elected both of them. So why is it now? Is it that he does not respect the wish of Edo people who elected Philip Shaibu? Because Section 14 of the Constitution talks about sovereignty belonging to the people of Nigeria, from whom government derives all their power and authority. So for us in Edo, it's a case of dictatorship. We have a clear case of a man that must impose his preferred candidates on no other person. And that's just a summary of it. Because Shaibu has ambition.
Just to bump it, the governor...
And is now a victim of his ambition.
The governor and Mr. Asue Ighodalo have denied time and again across TV stations, across the internet, to say, look, I'm independent. The governor is not my godfather, because some people have said that, should Asue Ighodalo become the governor, that automatically makes it the third term of Godwin Obaseki. So, how do we balance all of this? Do
you ever expect a man who stole goods in the market to accept, knowing the full consequence of that act, which is, stealing or not theft? You don't expect them to admit. But when Asue picked his fractional certificate, I use fractional advisedly because the deputy governor also laid claim that he won that election. Though the matter, of course, they said is sub judice, so I don't want to go into it. When he collected his certificate of return from the party, the first port of call of Asue Ighodalo was Godwin Obaseki, his godfather. He went to give him the certificate of return. So you don't need anybody. In law, we say ipso facto. By the mere fact that he took that certificate and gave it to his Oga, Obaseki, clearly shows a godfather and godson relationship. All the commissioners, House of Assembly members, they're always with him. State security is what he uses. Besides, Obaseki, some years ago, appointed him chairman of his Alagodaro, which he had now converted to a private company, a company limited by guarantee.
Right.
And I hear that the plan is when Obaseki leaves office in November, God forbid, or if Asue Ighodalo emerges governor, Obaseki now becomes chairman of Alagodaro Nigerian Limited by guarantee.
Why would you say God forbid? Is it a bad idea?
No, because the truth is that would be third term. We don't want third term in we don't want third term in Edo State, and that's why a whole lot of us have said no. We cannot allow a governor to do 8 years. Then he wants to do a further 8 years with, of course, because it's the first 4 years, which is the third term we're against. You know, because that's surrogacy, a situation where people have been. I mean, ASUA has been in this government for the past 7 years and some months running. You come from Edo Central Senatorial District, they say, the governor is an MOU governor. He's into PPP. We brought Osyomo Power Plant. As commissioner, I was using my Honda petrol generator. At times, for 2 weeks, they will not have light. And I wonder where this Osyomo is and the impact it has brought.
But we're told that the civil
service... I'm trying to say that. We also had a governor that was elected May last year. The governor of Abia State, Alex Otti. You see what he has done in Aba. Uninterrupted power.
But that project has been running for 2 decades or something.
No. He has been able to make it work. The project was there, but he was the one that now made it to work. You know, he has made it to work. It's not a question of you connect about 5 public service buildings, you give it to some private homes. I mean, that is not. And again, it is a business. Can you please give us the balance sheets? People are making money from this project. And besides, the question remains, ASUA Ighodalo, as chairman of Alagodaro, what has he attracted to Edo Central where he comes from? They talk of MOU project, nothing. And you now want to be governor of the state claiming that it's a SAN agenda. No, it is not a SAN agenda. It's an Obaseki third-term agenda. And Edo people are out to resist, by all means, any attempt for the governor to force himself, albeit by proxy, on Edo people.
But one would have thought for someone like you who had left the PDP officially and moved to the APC, even though we also understand that just recently you left the APC.
No, I didn't leave the APC. We had issues with our primaries.
But
I threatened, I put out a notice that I would resign from the party. And I must thank Mr. President. He intervened that the right thing should be done. The party retraced its footsteps. And having done that, I'm very comfortable with.
So you are saying this last process was free, fair, and credible?
Of course it was. But you know, one thing in Nigerian politics, a person who loses an election will never accept the fact that it was free and fair.
What was the problem with the first one that produced Honorable
I think there were certain interests, so to speak. And at the end of the day, you had 30 persons laying claim. And the party now said, coalition had started, about 8 local governments had been announced. At the time, the person who eventually won was leading in 6. Then his closest opponent, Dennis Idahosa, 2. Then talks came to disrupt the place. So it was that process the party said they should complete, and they completed the process, and the winner emerged. I mean, it's as simple as that.
I mean, when you say, well, you didn't resign, you're still in the APC, there was a letter purportedly...
No, I said notice of resignation. No doubt, notice of resignation. And I even said...
It was a notice, it was not definitive.
It was not even a letter that was physically written to the party. I sent a message, not a love letter, I sent a message to my ward chairman. I didn't copy the party. And I told him, I stated my reasons. And when I now saw action, I give you an example. If a landlord tells his tenant, you have not been paying rent, he gives him a 30 days quick notice, right? And the next day, or the following day, the tenant now brings the rent and even adds something additional for the coming year. As a landlord, will you not withdraw that notice to quit?
Of course.
It was a notice, and I've withdrawn that notice.
Let's talk about the process that produced Senator Okpebholo now, all right? Because people are saying the APC and the PDP are twins in 2 different colors, all right, born from the same womb. Because their argument is that while the PDP is, I mean, as it were, PDP is polarized internally, the APC is also not in a good place with regards to internal mechanism and all of that. For instance, there's the argument that the senator representing Edo North, former governor, the one who preceded Obaseki, talking about Adams Oshiomhole, has his interest in Honorable Dennis Idahosa, popularly called Denko, and they have Pastor Ezeyamu, who also at the time was more like a godfather to Oshiomhole, backing on Senator Okpebholo. And your party, the APC, is going into an election, a divided house. Talk to us about the ramifications.
Thank you. I feel that in politics, there's always what you call, you have permanent friends, you have permanent, no permanent friends or permanent
only
enemies.
Interest.
Is interest. And I think even internally, parties talk of internal democracy, you always have that play out. So as we speak, negotiations are on, right? We have not picked a running mate. There are positions in government. You have various positions that party members will be interested to occupy. And remember that there were about as much as 12 persons who aspire to become governor of Edo State under my party's platform. And of that number, I think about 9 have issued a congratulatory message to Ukpebo. It's just my brother, friend, Denko, that is still a bit aggrieved. Because the matter is sub judice, as a lawyer, I would not want to go into those details. But I think Senator Adams Oshiomhole, as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing Edo North, under the platform of the APC, with time, because I noticed that discussions are ongoing, and he has never come out to complain about the, have you heard him complain about the emergence of his brother, Senator Ukpebo? He has not. But though he feels aggrieved because he supported Dennis Idahosa, his candidate did not emerge. But he's a father, he's a leader, he's a former governor of Edo State. At times you win, at times you lose, right? So for us, we don't see it as somebody lost or somebody won. It's the same party. So for us, there are no victors and there are no vanquished. So to a very large extent, as a leader and a father we still regard or revere, right? We believe that with time, we'll all come together. We'll come together, certainly. There's no doubt about it, because APC is the party to beat. Look at Edo State. We don't have good governance in Edo State. Look at the civil service. I've said it severally, and I'll say it again. The governor has outsourced the civil service to his friends in Lagos. You find that a situation where consultants now do the work of commissioners, consultants now do the work of permanent secretary. Private sector have taken over the Edo State civil service. That one can rightly say that the civil service in Edo has been totally privatized. And even beyond that, the level of politics, a situation where you bring people from the private sector to come and serve as permanent secretary. Where is now the career progression? Where is the career progression? You know, you don't do that. You don't destroy a system to build it. You don't reform a system by destroying it.
This is interesting, because people who watched you in 2020, 4 years after, will be wondering what actually had attracted you to the Godwin Obaseki phenomenon 4 years ago that is no longer there all of a sudden.
I think for me, what you should also appreciate is one's ability to be constant.
Right.
When things are not going well, we should not be shy to condemn what is wrong. And when things are going well, we should also not hold back in saying that things are going well. I came into Godwin Obaseki's government in 2019 when he brought me in as a spokesperson. And I did my job to the best of my ability. It made certain promises. Oh, he said he would do this, he would do that. Oh, Gele
for the people.
For the people. And my duty was to help him drive it. But the moment I now realized that most of the things he said he would do, he would not do. He did not do. And even this problem of godfatherism, when I saw you now wanted to take the role of a godfather, I said, no, not again. We had local government elections where he practically imposed everybody. We had a situation where, you know, some of us who had divergent views, they really wanted to sort of push us completely out of the, and that was why I took a walk from the party, because a situation where the governor is the party leader, he wants to play the role of party chairman, he wants to play the role of, you know, the Speaker of Parliament. Remember, he prevented 14 people from taking up their seats. Look at our judiciary today. We have 8 judges that were recommended by the National Judicial Council because the governor's candidate was not amongst that 8. Since May last year, or June last year, he has refused to swear them in. And of course, I'm in court. It is what I want to live my life for, public interest. Because the end of democracy, dividends of democracy is the end of democracy. The moment a government fails to provide that, I don't think that government deserves the sympathy or the support of the people. And I, Adaze Emanta, I say it here, if Godwin Obaseki, who said, oh, Oshiomhole oppressed him in 2020, now wants to take the role of the godfather, collectively will resist him, because that's what he said, that if I become a godfather, the people should resist me. And that is what it is, what he said, that we're actually following the call he made. And as such, I don't think it is proper for a governor who is about to complete his term to now want to bring a surrogate who was part of his government. Sterling Bank runs virtually all the accounts in Edo State. There was a time it was reported that for a period of, I think, 3 to 5 months, I mean about a space of 5 months, the kind of bank charges they collected from the Edo State government treasury was close to $1 billion. That is a clear case of state capture. It's a clear case of, if you talk of ShopRite, want to know the ownership? I served in that government. Over 8 billion naira of Edo taxpayers' money went into what was meant to be a private business. The question is, who are the owners of these businesses? You talk of the Oshiomhole, you talk of a refinery that does not have visible products? How many filling stations pick products from the Edo State refinery they say they brought? How much of Edo State government taxpayers' money went? I mean, this lack of transparency is what some of us have issues with. We want a governor that will be a governor of the people, by the people, and for the people. Not a governor of Obaseki, for Obaseki, and by Obaseki, which some people will call Godwinocracy. We don't want that kind of system again in our state.
When you sound like this, I mean, it comes off as very apt. However, I mean, I recall very well when the governor went to the PDP state secretariat to pick up, to officially register as a card-carrying member of the party. Of course, it was a very tight period for him because he needed to leave the APC as quickly as possible to be able to clinch the PDP ticket at the time. He did say, in the presence of all the leaders of the state, of the party at the state level, including the chairman himself, saying, look, on account of me becoming a member of your party, I've become the leader of this party, and they all acquiesced in front of him, including the state chairman. That video is flying across YouTube. It's been 4 years down the line now. Why is the PDP bothered about this? I know, of course, we're not on the show to hold brief for the PDP, but it is what it is.
I will say this with every sense of decency and modesty. I was a member of PDP when I did what I did for Obaseki in 2019.
Right.
Some of us were the ones that insisted that if APC treated him in the manner they did, he should come to PDP. And we're the ones that officially received him into our party, right? And funny enough, it was this same Obaseki that drove many of us away from the party. In 2020, the primaries, a person like Ogbede Ihama, had to stand down for him,
right?
Riceman did the same. Riceman left the party because of Obaseki.
That's Kenny Maswagbon.
Yeah, Kenny Maswagbon, left the party because of him. He was one of those that stepped down for him. Gideon Ihine, who is now in my party, the APC, did the same, pushed him out. The truth is, when you exclude people, what do you get? You have a divided house. You remember in 2020, or rather in this recent election we had in 2023, there was so much of division caused by the governor. He wanted to be in charge of the party structure. It is not what's, just like respect, it's not what you demand, you earn it, right? Has he earned that sobriquet of being the leader of the party? The answer is no. You cannot come into a house, they gave you a roof, they drove you away from APC. You were disqualified as a sitting governor. They gave you a roof over your head. You set up your government, you refuse to include them. You refuse to include them. So what do you expect from them? And that is what I think is the problem of PDP as it is. Obaseki brought the crisis he took from APC into PDP. And that is why even those of us who were in PDP but working for him have left the party for him, because he feels that he knows it all. He's the only one. I've been in his government. I can tell you there's one man that feels every other person is dull. He's the only intelligent person in the room. He's the only light, though he's very dark in complexion. So for me, I think Edo people must resist Godwin Obaseki. He's about to leave government. We must tell him bye-bye. He cannot have his duplicate or his replica by way of a surrogate in government. We need a breath of fresh air. And that is why my candidates in the APC, Okpewo represents that breath of fresh air. PDP, my party, has never lost election at the senatorial level since 1999. It was this same man, Senator Monday Okpewo, Akpakomis as they call him, that defeated my party. So if the APC, in their wisdom, have given him their tickets, I believe that when you pick a strong running mate from Edo South, APC becomes a party that will give a breath of fresh air to Edo Public Service, give a breath of fresh air to our roads that are very bad. When I was resigning from the party, I stated categorically in my letter that the government failed to develop my local government. I mean, my local government, I cannot really point at good roads.
Which of the local government?
They got local governments. Look at the road at Botubu, very bad. Look at the road at Uwelu. The governor went there during the campaigns last year. They almost stoned him. It was after I intervened, they now rent some stones. And you can't be deceiving the people. You collect so much from the federation account. You make so much from IGRO, but there's really little or nothing to show for it. Edo State is just, as they say, a glorified village. Benin City is a glorified village. Oh, he arranged some of his friends. They built one place, they call it mall. You have ShopRite. A place like Abuja has about 5 outlets. Lagos has about 7. So it's ShopRite. And this was something they started far back Oshomole's time. He was in the Oshomole's government. That was why at times I laugh when people say it was conceptualized during the Oshomole's time. They could not achieve it during the Oshomole's time. So you are talking of a space of over 10 years. And that is the only achievement government can claim it has made. You promised an airport in Edo North. Where is that airport? You promised an innovation university in Edo South. Where is that? Even the Gelegele Seaport he has made so much noise about. Nothing has been seen. It is still that stream that we see. You don't deceive people.
Do you think the ticket, the gubernatorial tickets in Edo State should be zoned? Because that has been an argument. People saying it's got to be the time for Edo Central After you've had Oshomole from Edo North, now the incumbent governor, Obaseki from Edo South, it's got to go to Central. Does that not erode the principle of competence and merit?
One thing I will say here, and I'll say it very honestly, Answer Ighodalo as a person, he has the competence, no doubt.
To be governor of Edo State.
He has the competence, no doubt. He has served in Obaseki's government. He's a lawyer. He has done well. Okpebo is eminently qualified. Eminently, because he's a sitting senator. He has done well in business, and that was why his people elected him. The candidate of the Labour Party, though there's another person linking, but I prefer to refer to my brother Akpata, Olumide Akpata, as a candidate because he won his primaries clean and clear. The party came for that particular purpose. And just recently, the Court of Appeal has said the Abure fraction is the valid one. So Akpata, as we speak, legally is a valid candidate of the Labour Party. He's eminently qualified. We elected him president of the NBA, and he did very well as NBA president. So we have 3 individuals that have done well in their respective professions and that are eminently qualified. But the question is, under which of them will we have a better deal?
Of all these 3 gentlemen?
Of these 3 gentlemen. Under which person? Because one represents third term for Obaseki, no doubt. And Edo people know that.
And that for you is a no-no?
For Edo people, I think they will decide because I have just 1 vote. And it will be my duty to tell the world the truth and to also advise them that my candidate has a better deal, right? Because my candidate, I don't think he has any criminal record. I don't think he has served under any government where he stole money. I don't think he has served under a government that refused to develop the state, right? Akpata, as NBA president, did well. But the strength of Labour Party, and I'll say this with every sense of responsibility, lies in Edo South. Labour Party is fairly unknown in Edo Central. Edo North, I don't think they have any semblance of it there. And when you look at the Constitution, it is very clear in terms of the proportion, right? You must have 2/3 of, you must have 1/4 votes in 2/3 of the states.
So spread
of the local government.
So spread is a factor.
So spread is a factor. So if you are now banking on Edo South vote alone to become governor, I mean, you may just be dreaming. So I think that is the main challenge Labour Party has. Because APC as it stands, in the last election, and let's look at at least the closest is the last general election results. At first ballot on the 25th of February last year, what was the score? Of all the House of Reps election, PDP did not score 1. They didn't win any seats. If not that they moved the election for Igweben, Eastern West, Eastern Central Federal Constituency, there was no way PDP would have won that election. Because from the senatorial election, they lost everything in that federal constituency. And I think that is where I think people should be looking. How come that election was moved? Because they saw defeats. They saw defeats and there were 1 or 2 discrepancies. Coming back to what I mean, if PDP performed so poorly in that election, that becomes a barometer. The House of Assembly election, we know what happened. We know what happened. The governor came out begging that they wanted to impeach him. It was out of sympathy and some other things he did. And that's why it's quite unfortunate that we now find ourselves where we are. We are all now in APC. I mean, all those people that Obaseki, the APC chairman that left with him, Aslem Ojezua, he threw that one under the bus. Aslem Ojezua is not with him now, presently.
But he's not back to APC either.
Most of us who are in APC, we know the conversations that are ongoing. What we have in PDP today is a shell. Obaseki and his friends are inside that shell. And by the time the elections are over, you will now discover those people in that shell. Because the owners of the party, after the election, by the time Answer Ighodalo loses out and goes back to Lagos, Obaseki ends its tenure, goes back to Lagos, Danobi, who of course is the leader of the legacy party, the party that we all know as PDP, will get back their house. They gave Obaseki the house. He has used it for a 4-year period. Then he will return it back to them. Because Obaseki has said that on November 12 this year, he's going back to Lagos. He's carrying his portmanteau. And the question is, what will be in that portmanteau? It is for the EFCC and other people to decide, you know.
Last year, you did say very clearly that the next governor of Edo State must have 3 C's. You want to talk to us about those?
Yes, of competence, character, and capacity. And I'll start with the last, which is capacity. The governor should be able to communicate. I'm sorry to say, the first time we saw Answer Ighodalo aspiring, when he went to his village, he went with the aid of an interpreter. He went with a person speaking to his people in a language that he should be fluent in. If you cannot communicate with your people, is that capacity? That is 0 capacity. I'm a Benin man. I may not be fluent, but I can speak Benin. I can communicate with my people. Have you seen a German? He wants to campaign, maybe a member of the SDP in Germany. He now gets, somebody from Germany to be speaking German. I mean, it is a sign of incapacity. Your inability to communicate with your people is a sign of incapacity. So the next governor of Edo State, that's why people say he should be a homeboy, not a Lagos boy, quote and unquote. We are not against those coming from Lagos, but you should have some sort of relationship with your people, because the experience we've had with Governor Obaseki is a very bitter experience. We don't want to go through that same route.
That's when
once beaten, twice shy.
Aswan says he's always been a homeboy. For example, he says every other Christmas. I mean, this is what I've heard him say on national television. Every other Christmas, he would come home with his parents to Ebuimi, all right, for Christmas period. That's in Edo Central. Then he said he grew up in part around New Benin. He used to play football on the street with his friends, and he still has most of those friends till today. He says it's not politics that brought him together with Obaseki. He has known him right from uni days. Talked about how that they've been either on same side of a bargain, a transaction, on opposing sides. He's a lawyer, Obaseki is an investment banker, and all of that. But that's not what I want to dwell on right now. I want to talk about your party for a minute. Denko, I mean, as popularly called, Dennis Idahosa, has said that he's not satisfied with this process that produced Senator Okpebholo. Therefore, people are saying even within your party that there's a chance that he's heading to court. Should that happen, with a big if, what does it mean for the APC, particularly going into an election like this one?
Well, thank you. I want to quickly correct an impression you created, because you made the statement and I had the right of reply. You talked about, Aswa Ighodalo saying that, he's a lawyer, Obaseki is a banker. That they've had transactions where he was on one side, right? And Obaseki was on the other side. And in the past 7 years, they've been on a single transaction called Alao Daro, right? They have been on a single transaction running the state.
You have endorsed Alao Daro at some point.
No, Alao Daro for us, we didn't know what it was until we knew what it is now, right? You find that as a human being, you are prone to say, okay, let me see what it is. And the moment you now discover that it's fraudulent, what has Alao Daro done for Edo people? They claim they are bringing, which investment have they really brought to our state that has worked, that the people can feel the impact of that investment? With all the billions of naira that has been spent, what impact, what economic impact has that brought? I said Edo Central is a big senatorial district with 5 local governments. What has Alao Daro done for the people of Edo Central? What investments? I've said it, the governor was in the platform where I said it. I had to even exit that platform because nobody could tell me what impact. Because Edo Central have been marginalized, and that's why some of us have sympathy for them, for the governorship to go there. What impact has Obaseki government brought? Aswa Ighodalo was in that same government. What impact has he brought? So if he was in that government, you talked about when he was small, how the father used to carry them to Edo State. The same way the Igbos go home for Christmas. Don't they go home for Christmas? So for me, we need somebody that has sympathy, somebody that has empathy. You mentioned Denko. Denko, yes, he's my contemporary. People of my generation, they don't want a situation where you don't carry them along. These issues will be resolved. APC is a party that has internal mechanisms for dispute resolution. He had the opportunity of approaching the appeal panel. He did. I think they said he submitted his appeal. The party looked at it and said, no, the primary, or rather, this primary election was done the second time. You participated in it and you lost, right? And I know that the matter I took to court with some experience I have about such matters, I know with time, it's either he withdraws it or the court will rule on it. So it's really not, for us, it's not a challenge. We will not lose sleep over that. And apart from that, you should also remember that PDP have their own cases in court. I'm a lawyer in one of those cases, though I will not want to comment on it. There are 5 solid cases challenging Aswan's emergence. 5.
I guess including that of the Deputy Governor, Philip Shaibu.
Of course. He has already filed, and it is for the court to decide 5. You cannot compare 5 against 1.
I want to talk about something. This idea of saying, look, the governor is the leader of the party in the states. The president is the leader of the party at the national level. Let's talk about those states in this instance case. You have Jarek Tenebe, the leader of your party, I mean the chairman of your party. Yeah. Yes, in Edo State. And people say, well, Oshiomhole is the leader of the party. And what makes that even more interesting, and maybe I should add complicated, is the fact that Jarek Tenebe, the chairman of the party in the States, doesn't seem to be on the same page as Oshiomhole, the supposed leader of the party in the States, because we understand Jarek is behind Okpebholo, while Oshiomhole is behind Dennis Idahosa. What does that really mean?
I think the problem with leadership is many. If as a leader you don't communicate with your people, and when you say communication, I think that's where I should define it. It's a two-way traffic. It is not you talking, also listen to the people you are talking to. There
That's
must
right.
be feedback. I think in our own case, Oshiomhole, a very good guy. He was governor of our state, did very well. You agree with me that most of the roads and airport road today, he did it. You know, he has been able to attract that red roof revolution. You know, this stormwater project he started, though he abandoned it midway, thinking that Obaseki, his successor, will continue. But at the end of the day, he did his own part. He has left. He's no more governor of our state. He was national chairman. And I'm sorry to say, it was a stormy gale while he was national chairman. He was fighting battles. And I think it still boils down to this issue of communication. And coming back to what I mean by communication, as the leader of the party in the state, he was communicating to people, but he was not hearing them. He was not getting feedbacks. And that was what created that disconnect between him and the party structure at the state, right? And as such, the consequence was that he had a candidate who lost the election. And I must respect our former leader in the PDP. When I say former, because he's late, that's why I use the word former. The chief, Tony Aneni, great guy. He knew what political communication was about. He was a master at it. Issues were resolved internally. You never saw Chief Tony Aneni come out to say you must, or this is the person I'm supporting. No, he always built consensus internally. And what you saw outside was a reflection. I remember in 2007, most people may not do this, so I will let people know what really played out that threw up Osumbo as the governorship candidate of the PDP.
A government that didn't see the light of day.
That's another story because he betrayed the people that placed him there. And I'll use the word betrayed because if he didn't have issues with Chief Tony Aneni, he would have remained as governor. We know what threw Oshiomhole up. It's not what we want to say on TV, but we know what threw him up. It was this same internal schism they had, right? That now led to his ouster on November 12, 2008. So coming back to the leadership role Chief Aneni played, he had a candidate. And that person at the time was, I think, a minister, Ogbesia, or John Ogbesia. And on the eve of that election, a message came that the president preferred Osumbo. They were both aspirants of our party. And then he beat a retreat and told all the supporters, including my homo self, that we should all support Professor Osumbo. And that was what played out at the stadium the following day. If Tony Aneni did not listen to that superior voice, he would have been messed up in the general election, right? Because the president, knowing fully well the role he played, who want to deal with him in the general election, he will now support maybe a candidate of the opposition. But I think that is what leadership is. Your ability to beat a retreat when it matters the most. Because there was a message that also came. It's just that our leader, Oshiomhole, was in a hurry to achieve his dream of having Denko, Denis Ndausa, as a governorship candidate of the APC. And I think my advice to our leader, who we love so much and respect, is that he should realize that communication is a two-way traffic. When you talk, always listen to the other side. And at times, the president, as the leader of the party, will not come all out to say this is what should be. His body language should reflect his wishes. The people around him, listen to the people around the leader. And I can say that he's a master in the game, Asiwaju. Since 1999, you see the way the trajectory of Lagos has grown, right? You see the economy of Lagos, the way it's booming, the way through and through he has been able to produce successors, having the governor's advisory council, which, of course, take decisions. I'm on this second term ambition. It was that body that decided. It was not Tinubu as a person. And that is how you know a true leader, your ability to listen to your followers.
I want us to talk about what's probably, maybe for want of better words, we'll call the elephant in the room, Pastor Sage Ezeamu. I mean, he has had running battle with Adams Oshiomhole. Now we understand he's behind Okpebholo, the candidate of your party. And then, of course, we are not so sure from this conversation where the Edo North senator stands with all of this, even though you say that negotiations and discussions are all going. What exactly is the state of mind of Pastor Sage Ezeamu with regards to this election? Because he was supposed to be, he was an aspirant, and people had said, well, Pastor would emerge a candidate ultimately. Of course, we all know how that turned out now. So what exactly is the Ezeamu factor as far as this election is concerned?
I think that is what I mean when I say you should be able to listen to your followers. I've been with Pastor Sage Ezeamu for a very long time. I knew him way back, even from when I was in student union activities. And, I was with him in 2016. I didn't support Obaseki in 2016. I was with Ezeamu. The reason being, I was also a governorship aspirant. I pulled out when Ezeamu said, let's work together. I would have supported Obaseki because my late leader, General Samuel Ogumudia, wanted us to work for Oba. But I'm sorry to say it was Oshomole's intransigence, this problem of godfatherism, that made me to shy away from supporting, because anything godfatherism, I've never associated myself with it. It was because we saw that Obaseki was being oppressed. That was why some of us, even as PDP members, supported him. So coming back to Pastor Sage Ezeamu, when we knew he was neck deep in his aspiration, though very private, but I'll say it because people must know what's actually played out. I met him and I said, you should be a leader, not an aspirant. Look at your history. In 2006, you were one of those who brought Oshomole as an outgoing NLC president. You people prepared him for the election. Though he didn't win at first ballot, but he won through the courts. But you people prepared this man. Don't you think you can still play that leadership role now? Why must you be an aspirant? Because a whole lot of people are complaining, we don't have a leader, we don't have a leader. It's only one man that is taking decisions in the room. He's not listening to us. I said the moment you take away that toga of being an aspirant and assume the position of leadership, you will not provide direction. I met other persons. A whole lot of people went into the room, we had conversations. And we saw centripetal and centrifugal forces coming together. There were alignment, there were realignments. And that is what played out. And you see the primary result today. And I'm happy that Pastor Sage Ezeamu listened to reason. Other people approached him. He listened to them. And you saw on the eve or on the day of the election, I think he took that decision on the eve of the election, he withdrew from the race. And that sort of changed the calculation. Other aspirants also do the same. And when forces come together, both centripetal and centrifugal forces, the outcome can easily be determined. And that is what played out in the APC primary. Because I even gave an example. I said, look at that parable of a father who gave his children individual sticks of a broom to break. It was easy for them to break. But when he gave them the complete broom as a bunch to break, it was difficult. So he talks about unity, power unity. When you go individually on the journey, you cannot achieve the kind of progress or success you will make if you go as a team. So that if you have a flat tire, you have a group come together, fix that tire, and you make good progress. And I'm happy today that the APC, as we speak, have a party that is not divided but united. Look at the story in PDP. Aswe Ighodalo and Omosede Igbenedion, they are the only two people of all the aspirants. The remaining 9 aspirants on one side. But in the APC, majority of the aspirants are with Senator Monday Okpebholo. They even did a newspaper advert congratulating him. That shows unity. And I hear that many people will leave PDP for the APC before the elections. Many. It will be a tsunami, political tsunami.
If I bring a PDP man here, he's probably also going to tell me, so maybe many more people will leave the APC for the PDP, but maybe that's a discussion for another day. But for today, people say, look, politicians are just having a conversation of convenience. What they mean by that is, they say they don't like the idea of godfatherism when it favors them. But when things flip the other way, they say, well, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not godfatherism. It's just some people with political sagacity providing leadership and direction for the party and for politicians. Do you think it's realistic and feasible for us to say we no longer want godfatherism? Because that was the idea that Godwin Obaseki had sold to Edo people at the point. I spoke with, your colleague, former Attorney General of the States, Henry Dagbo, in 2020, just a few months before the election. And he didn't talk to me about how that the Ewotubo road that you made allusion to a while ago was where he had taken the governor to in 2016 while they were also campaigning. And that the governor, he had put his own reputation on the line to vouch for the governor that, look, he would fix this road within the first 4 years in office. And they did ask him, what happens, Henry, if Obaseki does not fix the road? And he said, well, if I come back here to campaign for myself or anyone, do not take me seriously. But he goes ahead to say, not too long after that, the governor tells him to leave the party, to leave politics, that he had been in politics too long. I'm saying that to say that the godfatherism thing is not party limited. It appears it's a global phenomenon for Nigerian politics and politicians.
If you trace the word godfather, I think it has a Catholic origin. You want
Naturally.
to baptize, and as a baby, they appoint somebody who is your godfather. And that godfather role in the Catholic Church, within the context of Catholicism, is to guide you as a mentor. You become his mentee. And I think that is the concept of godfatherism in politics. Somebody sort of sponsors your aspiration. And the moment he does that, he should realize that it is for the people's good he's doing that, not for his own self-aggrandizement. It is when it becomes a matter of self-aggrandizement that it must be my person. I must produce your successor. that is where the godfatherism is dangerous. When it means you will now have to take a quarter of the resources of the states and give to that person. Because that money is not meant for that person. It's taxpayers' resources. It's resources from the federation account, meant for roads, meant for hospitals and the rest. So I think that is a bad side to it. Tinubu, as a godfather in Lagos, brought people who had capacity. And they did very well when they became governor. You have examples of Fashola. Even Ambode did well. And the present governor is doing so fantastic. So look at the Lagos monorail. If that is what godfatherism is, I think they should borrow us. They said, do not be Lagos in 2020. But there's nothing to show for the people who came from Lagos to take up leadership role. Obaseki, I must say, was a disaster. It's still a disaster in government. There's nothing. Speak so much of grammar, but nothing to show for it. Look at the economy of Edo State. Very backward. I'm from that state. I'm not proud to say I'm from that state because the governor has run the state aground completely. Nothing to show for it. He argues that he pays salary. How many people are in the public service? The population of those in the public service, they are not up to 10% of the Edo State population.
But again, I mean, that's interesting because there's a report now, I mean, saying that, look, of the 36 states in the Federation, there are only 11 that can pay salaries without reliance or dependence on federal allocation. And those states happens to be one of those states. Is that not a clear indication of, I mean, how not very correct this position is?
You know, if you know me, I always say it the way it is. I say, yeah, he pays salary. Who are those? Those in the civil service.
So you are saying beyond
if you look at other institutions, like Ambrose Ali University now, there was a news report that came out recently of how many academics, 20-something academics died due to non-payment of salaries. That university, the man has run the place aground. He brought some technocrats. As we speak, for the past 3 years, the government council of that institution has not functioned. He's the one now running he's the visitor of the university, you know that. But the law talks about a governing council. They call the group one amorphous body, special intervention team. You put people who are not experienced, people who are not professors. As we speak, we've had a case where about 3 people died on the same day, and unfortunately, my uncle, who was Dean of Social Sciences, died. No payment of salaries. A situation where a professor who earns 300,000, you are owing him 12 months' salary. I mean, that's wickedness of the highest order. Those are the dark sides of it. They will not tell you. You are paying salaries. Go and pay the lecturer salaries in Ekpoma and tell us that, yes, we pay salaries. Ekeadolo, you have people who left that place years ago. The moment you inherit a debt as a governor, you are supposed to pay that debt. The argument, oh, it was not under my time, it was under Oshomole. You were also part of Oshomole's government. Those unpaid salaries of Ekeadolo workers, unpaid salaries of the other college education in the Gweben, these are issues. Because you don't talk of injustice here and justice there. So the injustice that you have done in the Ekeadolo, the injustice you have done in AAU cannot, as it were, give you a good face when you now say you are paying 40,000 minimum wage of civil servants that are not even up to, I can even say 5%. What is the population of civil servants, those in the public service or the civil service in the
compared to the population of the states?
Compared to the entire Edo State population, who go on most of all those bad roads, who, as it were, cannot even boast of clean drinking water. Do you know that in Edo State it is borehole true? Government does not provide a drop of water. In the rural communities, most of those drilling rigs Oshomole brought, they are all gone. So what impact? Yes, we may have the Uromi Ugboa water project. How many houses do this water get to?
As we wrap up now, let's talk about Felix Shaibu for a second again. We understand notice of impeachment has been served on him by the House of Assembly, and some people say, well, the bulk of the members of the State House of Assembly are what they call Obaseki's boys. So where do you see the pendulum swinging as far as the Deputy Governor Felix Shaibu is concerned going into this election?
For me, it brings mixed feelings. I say that because I remember last year, most of the PDP House of Assembly members, you know, we had factional primaries. I and the Deputy Governor, we stood by these persons. Even when the Governor, his Chief of Staff, SSG, were all doing Labour Party, Peter Obi came to meet them. I was even offered the tickets to go to the House of Assembly, and I said, no. The Governor even asked me on the day we had Salah, just the way you are sitting. I said, oh, you want me to run for? I just smiled. I didn't say anything, because for me, I saw that as a great gift. They knew I was close to Shaibu. They wanted to pull me away from Shaibu, because I have known Shaibu way back. And for me, I don't know how to betray friendship. I know the role Shaibu played in making Obaseki governor the first time and the second time. I know the role he played when there was this Tommy Gale in 2020. Against all odds, he supported Obaseki, even against his leader, Adams Oshiomhole. So for me, the impeachment thing is a matter of law. But my question is, why is it that it is only one person? Because Section 188 talks about the governor and the deputy. Obaseki deserves to be impeached. This is a man that has zero respect for the rule of law. 8 judges were recommended for appointment. The man refused to allow these persons to assume their office.
What was the reason?
I really don't know what the reason. Of course, I told you he had a candidate who did not emerge. He could not lobby his way through because the NJC has a very tight system that picks the best. The fact that you submitted 2 names for a particular slot does not mean automatically your own candidate will emerge. So for you to have refused to swear these people, you have violated the oath of office you took as governor of Edo State. And Section 14 talks about the security and welfare of the people being the primary purpose of government. How well has the governor achieved this? You have a situation where a governor uses consultants. He has practically obliterated the role of the Edo State Civil Service Commission. The role of public servants have been practically obliterated. Even the figures, you talk of corruption, Edo State has become the capital of corruption in Nigeria. A situation where you find that procurement laws have been violated completely. Foreign companies come to do projects in Edo State. We have one company called E&K. That's the only company that does all beauty projects. Do they follow procurement laws? The answer is no. How many times have you seen invitation to bid on a national daily from Edo State? So I think the EFCC will have a lot of work to do. But the House of Assembly that has that duty, they have failed to see what we are saying. They are now rather chasing shadows. I say chasing shadows because from what I've seen or heard, it is because the deputy governor went to court. Is that a ground for impeachment? I don't want to even go into that because at the appropriate time, we'll do a proper post-mortem on if these people are truly lawmakers. Because if you operate as a stooge, that is what it is. Shaibu played a very big role in their emergence. He funded all their litigations up to the Supreme Court because I was the one coordinating it. He funded it. But this is how they want to pay him back. Because in politics, there's always a karma side of it. They have signed an impeachment notice. Edo people will be the judge, not them.
Okay, we're going to let you off, but just one last question. For those who not only know that you were in Governor Obaseki's government at the point, but also realize that you campaigned for him very vehemently in 2020. How do you placate them going forward? How do you compensate for that?
I think I want to appeal to Edo people to know that we are presently at a crossroads. I may have made a mistake supporting the man who we thought was a good man.
So was that an error of judgment?
It may not have been an error of judgment because it was the facts available to me at the time. If that scenario played out with the same circumstances, right, I would have done the same thing. But if the way the government is now operating, you now take us back to 2020 with all these things he has been doing, God forbid, I would not make that kind of mistake. God forbid, because human beings change. And they talk about power, right? The ability for you as a man not to be, for your character not to change once you acquire power. And I think that is one of the evils of power. Just like Lord Acton said, that power tends to corrupt, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. What has now created this absolutism in power is because we have a very weak legislature. For the first time, we've seen a House of Assembly, 21 members. How many legislations have you had 21 members endorse since they were elected last year and sworn in June last year? How many motions have they moved on welfare that they have endorsed? Unfortunately, we hear that things change hands. That's why 21 members who call themselves honorable have said because a man has gone to court, that has become an act of gross misconduct. Not a governor who has failed to develop the state. Not a governor that uses consultants. Not a governor that owns practically all government, PPPs. Because you ask yourself, they talk of public-private partnership. Who is the owner of ShopRite? You want to know the owner of ShopRite. The power plant in Oshiomhole, who is the owner? What is the contribution of the Edo State government?
So you're saying what the governor does, largely is shrouded in secrecy? No,
we want to know now because you talk of Alagodaro. What have they really attracted? We want to know the owners of these businesses because I serve in government. Why will you spend close to 10 billion naira of taxpayers' money on a private project? Is that a private project? It is not a private project. At the appropriate time, the next government will take that business away from those private individuals. They will ask the EFCC to investigate. We want to know the owners of these businesses because it is the taxpayers' money that have been invested in this state. And that's why we don't want anybody from Obaseki's end to continue as governor. We want to know, and people deserve to know.
All right. So we're going to leave the PDP to make that call. I mean, we hope they're even able to make that call because it seems a lot is cast in concrete now. Asue Godalo having emerged their flag bearer. I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Honorable Andrew Adaze Emata, for making our time to be a part of our program this morning. This is where we're just going to take a quick break, everyone, but let's join Chung Annabel Joseph as she brings us a bit of insight into the world of entertainment.
Sensational singer-songwriter Peruzzi is set to kick off his 2024 with a collaboration with superstar Olamide Badoo. The former DMW signee took to his Instagram page to share of his new single titled "Ja Love Never Failed Me Yet," on which he featured